my name is Vic, and I would like to share with you today my thoughts on how to be happy. And when I say happy, I don't mean like the fast rush or adrenaline of things that make us feel good, like pleasurable things like sex and travel and new adventures and by all or good food. By all means, these are great things, but they kind of come and go really fast, right? So we get a high, and like drugs, and then we're quickly back to the status quo of our usual thoughts, and we still have to deal with our mind. So there is no escape from our mind, and therefore we kind of I think what people really want is a more permanent, stable state, and actually, when you get some of these highs, it gets maybe even more frustrating or somehow disillusioning because you realize that these are short term things, and even if you get a partner. Uh, if you put your happiness in them, sooner or later you'll see that there are missing spots in that relationship, or the relationship ends for whatever reason. So nothing is constant. So I think when people say that they want to be happy, um, I think what subconsciously they really mean is to be joyful. The state of being joyful is different than the state of being happy, because happiness comes from exactly what I said. Um, kind of stimulants, things that get you on a high, depending on your personality. Even a good book for some people, or really passionate adventure or sex or something for somebody else. Um, the state of joy is different because it comes from the inside. So it's a state of feeling good in your body, feeling good about life, having this kind of lightness, feeling this inner vibrancy, and just this inner power, feeling your inner power. And so, how do you get to that state? And for some people, um, they feel it more easily than others, especially for people who are more optimistic, maybe people who practice more sports, even though there again it's hormones and physical things that contribute to that state. Um, the state of joy, or being joyful or happy in that way, in that more permanent way, in my opinion, comes when you are able to express yourself, and when you're doing things that are in alignment with who you truly are. So your thoughts are in alignment with your feelings, and your feelings are in alignment with your actions. So what you're thinking, you're feeling, and that's what you're doing, right? And it seems pretty simple, but for many people, you have certain thoughts and desires, and then you actually feel guilty about them, and you do something totally different, because society says so. You're afraid of, like, if you quit your job and start writing that book, that you will lose your security, whatever there is, because there's no such thing as security in the material world. That's a different topic. And so basically, then your thoughts are contradicting your feelings, and are contradicting your actions. And these contradictions create a huge inner kind of turbulence and lack of peace and restlessness. And they lead, among other things, they could lead to depression or anger, depending on the person. In any case, they lead to lack of joy, because you're basically not in alignment with who you truly are. And I know it's really not easy to get to that place where you freely are following this line of thoughts, feelings, actions. It's not easy for many reasons, and social mechanisms and family issues and prejudices and things you learn in school, fears for financial security, and so on and so on and so on, are among the reasons why people stop following their calling, their urge to do something. That's what I mean by calling, because and their intuition. Because when you listen to your intuition, or when you listen to how you feel inside, that's why some teachers say, okay, ask yourself at every moment, how do I feel inside? When you ask yourself this way, uh, and when you dare to admit what you're really thinking and feeling, you can usually see what's the urge, right? So for some people, the urge is to quit the job, as I said, and like write a book, or the urge is to travel, but you're afraid to travel, or the urge is to go out and meet people, but again, you've isolated yourself for whatever reason, and that's not easy to do, or you have body issues and all these things that come with contemporary civilization. Um, so, mm, so what happens then? So, um, you would have to make um, finding your true self, who you really are, and following your intuition and following the natural movement of what your inner self wants to do, or your soul, um, if you think in those terms, uh, and following that, make that the first priority in your life. So rather than uh, physical survival, um, which for most people is the primary importance in their life, you have to make the conscious decision that you are not an animal, that you're on a higher stage than an animal. And whether you believe in spiritual essence that it is inside all of us, you can still believe in yourself as a human being, as a being that has a lot of huge potential, and very importantly has two things that separate us from an animal, which is a mind through which you can create things. So you can have thoughts, you can envision things that you really truly want, and you can dare to keep meditating on them and envisioning them. And the second thing that we have is a very strong intuition, and intuition is something that can be developed. And I'm going to discuss that in another video in depth, how to develop your intuition. Um, so, if you decide to follow these two higher forces that make you a human being, uh, then your life will take a totally different direction, because you're not going after fear, because physical survival is always deeply, intimately connected with fear. You're following, so to speak, the path of love, as cliche as it sounds. And it is the path of love because um, it's the path of believing, is the path of hoping, is the path of creating something new, something that will be beneficial to you and to everybody else around you. Because our calling is always related to not only benefiting us, but in fact, um, it's always something with which we can be in the best service um, to others and the world and the universe, whatever you want to call it, is what really gives you your place in this whole magnificent and magnetic structure that unites all human beings. And so actually by doing these things you'll be most fulfilled. And isn't this what we want to feel, and what makes us feel joyful is when we express ourselves and when we are feeling really fulfilled. So whether you're expressing yourself through cooking, if that's a huge passion and you decide to take the risk, and you have to be able to take some risks, um, so to speak, put your life on the line, burn your bridges, burn the boats. What was it, like the Vikings used to burn their ships and say, okay, there's no way back. You're either winning or you're dying. So you have to take those risks. So whether you're like decide to open your own restaurant because your big passion is cooking, or you want to become a singer or an artist of some sort, a painter, a craftsman, whether you've always wanted to write but you were too scared to, or whether you always wanted to be, I don't know, in business, but your parents really wanted you to do medicine, so that's why you studied medicine, you went to that field, but you were never very passionate about it. So you have to take that step and listen to that, and start going down that path, because this is the path of fulfillment, of really expressing your gifts. And that's where you start to grow and expand and meet the right people. Very often people say, why am I not surrounded by the right people or the right partner? And in my opinion, very often the answer is because you're not on your true path. You're living a life of somebody else's ideas, beliefs, expectations of you, and your own fears and sort of prejudices. So what I want to say is that there is a way, even so, for example, I can say this as someone who struggled with chronic depression for over 20 years, or about 23, 4 years to be precise, who was hospitalized, suffered through a whole lot, and still found strength to get sort of start to clear all the mess. And it can be very difficult, right, to clear all these inner contradictions, because you have to understand them, all those feelings, especially fear, guilt, blame, criticism, inner criticism, self-hate. These are big ones. They're hard to work through, but it is possible to work through them if you believe, if you want, if you're persistent, if you make this the primary purpose of your life, if you pray about it every day, or if you don't pray, at least if you're not open to the spiritual dimension, or praying or meditation, then it will have to be your sheer human will to turn your back to the negative side and turn towards the positive, right? Because the world is made of positive and negative. We live in a dualistic world where night follows day, and there's no way to have a day without a night, or night without a day. And it's a choice, right? It's a choice of perception. It's a choice of how you're going to see things. In absolutely every situation, you can see it negatively or you can see it positively. When you think of a parent, you can focus on the negative things that happen, or you can focus on the positives, and there are always a negative and a positive. It's impossible, uh, as I said, to have one without another. Or if you have a partner or even a friend, unless you're in the very first delusional stages of romantic love, it's impossible not to see that every person has positives and negatives. So it's a matter of choice what you're going to focus on. And if you focus on the positive, if you focus on self-growth, if you focus on overcoming things and taking responsibility and taking control and releasing the role of the victim, and all kinds of self-defeating beliefs, such as helplessness, hopelessness, that there's no way out and all of that. And I will talk about this more as well when I talk about depression in another video. So if you're willing to turn towards the good and release the bad, then anything is possible. And then you will get help from the universe. Things will align in your life. You will start meeting people that help you, that give you the right advice at the right time. And of course, everything happens step by step, so it's not a fairy tale. It's not so easy, but um, it can happen at an optimal speed in an optimal way, and little by little you can start expressing yourself. So let's say if you like painting, even whatever is happening in your life, you can still start by painting like 15 minutes a day or 20 minutes or 25. Even actually right now I'm going through a lot of things, so I don't have time. I haven't been able to find time to do it every single day, but definitely every week I find time to work on art. And it's amazing that because that is one of my callings, and for many many years I had sort of put it on the back burner and I wasn't doing it. uh, and I finally found the sort of persistence and discipline to start making it more consistently, because I can see that on any day, no matter how hard the day is, a lot of things I have to deal with, even if I paint even for 30 minutes or 20 minutes, I feel so much better. I feel so differently. Expressing myself just makes me feel so good, puts me in a totally different headspace. So, so good luck to you guys on this journey. If you have any questions, you can put them down below. This is just the beginning of this conversation. There's so much more to say, but the bottom line is, make this decision today. Make a decision to follow your highest self. Make a decision to develop and to listen to your intuition, and to dare to look inside and see what you are really passionate about. And actually, two questions you can ask yourself today and every day until you really and really becomes automatic. The first question is, if you don't know really what your passions are and you don't really know what you want to do, one thing to ask yourself is like this question, uh, and maybe I'll put it down below. Okay, here it goes. If What would you do on a daily basis if you were not paid to do it? And even if you actually had to pay somebody or the universe or something for them to let you do it, what would be that thing that you want to do even though you're not paid for it, and actually you have to pay in order to do it? So think about that. And the other thing is, if you had all the money in the world and you had all the time in the world and all of this was settled, what would you be doing with your life? So I leave you with these two questions and we will continue this discussion. God bless. I'll see you soon. Peace.